Hey guys, Panther0822 here. I decided that well, not necessarily that I would get started early. I wanted to actually kind of get the things started. Um, I at least wanted to get things rolling a little bit early so that people would have time to kind of get in, kind of check in the chat, and go from there. So if you guys are here, um, throw something in the chat. Let me know that you're here, okay? Ooh. Hey guys, welcome. We'll get started here at 1 o'clock. We've got about 6 minutes, so get comfortable, to borrow a phrase from one of the guys who was responding to the post through Facebook. And grab some popcorn because you'll probably want to get some. This is going to be a little bit of a long stream, so might want to get something to get yourself nice and comfortable. Um, get yourself a nice drink, whether that be a alcohol or non-alcohol drink. Completely up to you, your choice. I think it's a little early in the day for some alcohol, but I mean, hey, it's drinking hour somewhere in the world, so all right. I know that I can get the chat up. Um, Oh, the chat's there on. Alrighty. Da-da-da. We'll get started here in about 3 minutes. Like I said, just wanted to start a little bit early so that give people enough time to get comfy. I'm aware that the middle code, the Grey Jedi code, is probably one of the most, if not the most controversial code that there is. Although somebody just shared with me the beige Jedi code, so that's actually kind of interesting. I like that. That is good. Uh, all right, I just heard something that it sounds like I'm gonna have to deal with. Not now, because I'm doing this, but all right. Where are we at? We are at 1 o'clock. All right, let's go ahead and get started, guys. Um, so again, welcome. I'm Panther0822. This video is it's for a couple of reasons. One is I wanted to go through and go back through the codes, go back through them, and just kind of have some fun. I've done previous. I've covered these codes before in the past, but I wanted to redo them. One, I've got a little bit better camera than before. Um, and so I'm hoping the quality of this is actually going to be better than the previous one. Is what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. So we're going to be comparing all three of the Jedi codes, and here's kind of basically I have some caveats before I really get into the codes. Number one, first and foremost, and the thing that is most important is this is my thoughts. This is not echoing the thought. I may echo the same thoughts as other people. I may share the same opinion as other people. That being said, this is just my thoughts, especially when it comes to the Grey Jedi Code. The Grey Jedi Code is not canon, not officially. It has not been adopted by George Lucas, at least not to my knowledge. It has not been put in any actual canon literature, anything along those lines. The closest thing we have to quote unquote Grey Jedi is kind of some things going on in Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels, at least up to the point where I had caught up, and honestly, I'm about two, I want to say in between 1 to 2 seasons behind at this point. Um, kind of had a push in kind of the Gray Jedi, as it were, direction. That being said, it's not official. It is simply the best way to put it is a fan theory. Is really what it is. If you subscribe to it, fantastic. If you don't, if you think it's a boring bunch of horse hockey, then that's your opinion and cool, and we'll leave it at that. So, um, let me know if the music in the background is too loud. If I need to turn it down, I have already turned it down quite a bit. But if I need to turn it down more, let me know. I am actually watching this um, through my iPad, so if you throw a chat up at me, I am actually going to see it and I will respond to it. So, um, anyways, let us. We're gonna start with the Jedi Code. Is what we're gonna start with. So, um, I'm gonna basically kind of I'm gonna try and read the code all the way through once, and then we'll step through it, and I'll give my thought process. Fair warning though, this is gonna be a bit of a long stream. Okay, there we go. And then if you haven't already shared this out, go ahead and share this out. And then if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button because I do upload. I'm in the process of moving. So traditionally, if I was not in the process of moving and trying to get things done in regards to that, I typically upload Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays are kind of hit or miss. But traditionally, I upload Monday through Friday. Or, yeah, Monday through Friday, and then typically I usually do something Saturday. But Saturdays, I do not do anything on Sunday unless it's a family thing. So. Or unless I'm behind on material or something like that, but that's not common. So, anyways, all right. So, the Jedi Code. This is the basically this would be the good guys code if you're for those of you who want to try and do a good guy bad guy comparison. This is the good guy code for the most part. So, there is no emotion. There is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge, there is no passion, there is serenity, there is no chaos, there is harmony, and there is no death, there is the Force. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. Like I said, this is my thoughts. And again, if it shares with yours, great. If it doesn't, great. I know there's some people who be like, well, why are you saying great if we don't agree? Because it's your opinion. If and at the very least, what I hope to do with this um, is I hope to give you guys something to think about and go from there. So take it for what it is. All right. So there is no emotion, there is peace. Unfortunately, the Jedi have a tendency to try and stifle emotion. Um, we can typically see this as a downfall. Typically, one of the reasons why a good portion of the Jedi end up kind of transitioning from light side to dark side is usually because of actually emotions. Denying emotions is not a good thing. Um, Now, that being said, the way that the context of there is no emotion, there is peace, is more specifically, to me at least, is more referencing the fact that yes, you have emotion, but opposed to reacting to the emotion and opposed to getting caught up in whatever that emotion is, you should find peace within that and then go from there. So the objectivity of the first particular precept, at least to me, and again, it could be different from the white held concept, and it could be different from you, and that's fine. But my understanding of the first precept is that you should find peace within your emotions, opposed to basically not, opposed to reacting in a different way. So that's just my thoughts. The second one is there is no ignorance, there is knowledge. Um, Again, this is another kind of one of those ones where I get, in a lot of ways, I get where they're coming from, because when you say there is no ignorance, in a lot of ways, ignorance is the lack of knowledge. So it's interesting that they use there is knowledge as kind of the counterpoint in this. So um, really what we're coming to as far as this particular point goes is, if you don't know something, you should at least have enough knowledge to recognize that you do not understand something or you don't know something, and you should have the knowledge to actually admit that. So that's my thoughts on the second precept, is that you should acknowledge the fact that you do not have knowledge in everything. You are not a know-it-all, and you have much to learn in life. So that's again my thought process on that. I can well, I won't go in that direction. Okay. Um, and there is no passion, there is serenity. Again, this is a lot like the first one, where when it comes to finding your peace within emotion, you should find serenity within your passion. If you're passionate about something, you should find a way to be serene about it. A lot of times when people get passionate about something, they get overly animated, they get very loud about it, they get very boisterous about it. And sometimes it gets to the point where they're overbearing, and it then at that point becomes a problem. So what what I would take away from the third point is that when you have passion in something, you should find serenity in it. You should actually find peace within that passion, so that you can communicate that passion in a way that's not going to overwhelm other people, but instead of overwhelming a person with it, you should be able to communicate the information or demonstrate the task in a way that people are just they want to watch. Because when I watch it, I'm a very active, no, I'm not as active as I'd like to be, but I've been very active in martial arts and in fencing. And one of the things that I find very interesting is watching my instructor or watching other students go through forms, because a lot of times, if they're serene within the form itself, the form comes across the amount of power and control and confidence that the person has in that particular form. A lot of times, just it kind of overflows, because while forms can be very intense and people can have a very intense look on their face, a lot of times their face is also relaxed. You can see the passion in them. You can see the things that are going through, and you can see the points that need to be demonstrated. But there's a serenity in it that is, in a lot of ways, just absolutely beautiful to watch. So there is no chaos. There is harmony. This is a kind of, again, when I go through and I read the Jedi Code, I understand in a lot of ways. I kind of understand a lot of what they're trying to get at. Mm, but there's, yeah. Um, a lot of times there is, It's like nature. Nature in and of itself is very serene, but there is also chaos within that. So when you are taking a look at something, if there's chaos around you, a lot of times what this is actually, in my thoughts at least, is you should be the the center point that brings it harmony. You should be the one who actually brings the calm. If you're in the middle, if if you're like there are a lot of fires that are going on, and if you're a firefighter, firefighters are highly trained to assess the situation and to look into something. And so when they're like in the middle of a blaze, they have harmony within that, because even though the fire is raging around them, they themselves have harmony with themselves because they know what they need to do. And so what they're doing is they are restoring the natural harmony that is within nature. Even though fire is chaos and it is burning everything down, you have water, and water balances the fire out, and eventually it brings harmony to everything, and the equation balances. And then the last precept, as far as the Jedi goes, is there is no death, there is the Force. This one's a bit of a spiritual point. Um, and we can actually a lot of this particular point, we see it in in A New Hope, where Ben sacrifices himself and it becomes a Force ghost, and it's talking about how there is the Force itself. Again, it's all around us. It binds us together. It moves in and through us, and it is all encompassing, and it is always there. And we know, as people, we have our physical body, and then if you're a spiritual person, whether you're a Christian or Buddhist, or anything along those lines, you believe in some form of a spiritual life. And so you believe that once your physical body passes, you then transition into the spiritual world. And that spiritual world, depending on what you believe, has several different forms as far as what that looks like. So that's what this last part is talking about. This last part is talking about how there's more to things than just the physical side of the equation. There is the spiritual side of the equation. There is something that is all around us, that's binding, that moves in and through us and connects us all together, even though we can't see it. If you take the time, you can train yourself to actually feel it. Christians will call it your spirit. You can feel the spirit moving and things along those lines. For those of you who are martial artists or get into chi or get into chakras and energy flow and things like that, that would be kind of the way that you would know it and understand it, is is through that particular medium. So, all right, I'm gonna take a minute. I'm gonna drink some water, and I hope everybody's enjoying so far. So, uh, all right. Now let's go to the stark contrast. Let's go and cover um, the dark side of the equation. So, passion is a lie, or sorry, passion is a lie. That's not wrong, right? Peace is a lie. There's only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains will be broken. The Force shall set me free. So, when it comes to the Sith, you in a lot of ways, the Jedi and the Sith, they're it's basically kind of the polar opposites. You have black and then you have white. complete polars of each other. So the Sith believe that peace is a lie and that there's only passion. So where the first precept of Jedi, where they in a lot of ways kind of deny kind of that emotion, or they deny that passion, or at least suppress it, the Sith don't. They believe in giving into that passion. So, and there's nothing wrong with giving into passion unless you go to an extreme, and in which case the Sith are the extreme side of the equation. They're not the balanced side of the equation, because when it comes to honestly, when it comes to these codes, both of these codes, there is a perception, and that perception is your perception. It is not the widely held perception. It is your perception or your translation of the code. So take this for what it is, and go from there. So, but anyway, so the second precept, as far as the Sith goes, is that they believe that through that passion they gain strength. So the more passionate you are about something, the more strength you have in that particular area. And we can actually see this in real life, and you can see it all the time. Anything you are actually very highly passionate for, you end up having the strength for, whether it be a physical strength or a mental strength or both, depending on whatever that task is. So one feeds into the next one. And we can see that through, and honestly, same with the Jedi Code. One does actually feed into the next one. Same with the Sith Code. One follows into the next. So, so the more passionate about something, typically the stronger you are in that, the stronger your convictions are of that. So, and then through that strength, you gain power. So basically, you gain the ability, you grow more powerful within that. And again, we can see it. The stronger, more physical you are, we can basically kind of use kind of like a weightlifting analogy as far as this goes. The more passionate you are about weightlifting, the more frequently you hit the gym. The more frequently you hit the gym, the more you're into the weights. And as you hit the weights more frequently, you're able to go from 10 pounds to 20 pounds, 20 to 30, to 30 to 40, 40 to say 80 as a really drastic jump. And you constantly grow in that strength. So the next part is through that strength you gain power. So, and again, we can see it. The more weight, the more dead weight you can lift, as far as like 20 pounds versus 30, 30 versus 80, and things like that, the more you're able to do. So, I mean, if you're a construction worker and you're hitting the gym all the time, you might have, when you first started, you might have had a difficult time lifting some of the equipment that you needed to lift, or things like that. But as you're gaining more strength, you can become more powerful. That power translates in the ability to do more things that are power based, i.e., strength based. So, and then in that, those in and of themselves are a victory. When you're able to go from 20 pounds to 30 pounds, you're now at 30 pounds, you've now gained victory over 20 pounds, because you can now do 20 pounds without any issue. Same if you go from 30 to 40, 40 to 50, so on and so forth. So we can go from there. And then through victory, my chains will be broken. Now, the Sith, in a lot of ways, view things in a way where they're things that bind you, and so through the Force, you're able to break free of those things. It's not necessarily wrong, because again, we can think of it like temptation. If you're a smoker and you're trying to quit smoking, and again, we can translate this. You're passionate about not smoking, and so through that passion, you slowly gain the strength to stop. And the way that you gain that strength is by reducing the number of cigarettes that you are taking in a particular day. Your power now is your power to not backslide, and then through that you normally gain victory over not being able to smoke anymore. So And your chains is basically the cigarettes are your chains, and so through that victory, you're able to break the chains of smoking, and you gain victory over that. So it's not that you can't find correlations to real life in these codes, because you absolutely can find parallels to things and translate them into things and things like that. Um, and then again, because the force is basically a spiritual energy, that spiritual energy that is in you is what actually gives you that passion, which translates into strength, which translates into power, which translates into victory over the things that you're trying to basically break those chains. So again, the two of these are in a lot of ways they're stellar opposites of each other, and because they are stellar opposites of each other, they tend to clash a lot. So because they tend to clash a lot, they tend not to get along. So next we're going to go over the Grey Jedi Code. And now here's like I said, the Grey Jedi Code is probably the most controversial fan um, fiction that there is right now. Um, as far as like the Jedi codes and things like that. So um, when it comes to this particular one, what I'm going to tell you is take this with a grain of salt, as um, when it comes to the Grey Jedi Code, again, this is theory. This is not fact. This is not canon. This is not anything. This is simply something that's been put out into the ethers, and to a certain degree has been pretty widely accepted, actually, because there are a lot of people who actually kind of subscribe to this. Now, um, the last time I did this, there was a gentleman who went through and wrote a very lengthy um, thing in regards to why he thinks the Grey Jedi thing is incorrect. And honestly, it was very well written. It was very well done. His points were he was very eloquent as far as his points go. So I definitely understand where he's coming from. I get where he's coming from, and the points that he has, I get, are usually most people's arguments against the Grey Jedi and the codes. So a lot of people tend to think a Grey Jedi is somebody who doesn't subscribe 100% to the light or 100% to the dark. They kind of ride the line, and so they don't really grow in strength in one direction. They kind of ride the line. Now, my understanding of a Grey Jedi is, again, because it's actually not it's not a Jedi, or it's not a Force user who rides the line. What it is it's typically a person who subscribes very much to the light side of the Force. They're a person that is very much for the positive, they're very much for the good, and they're very much for things. Unfortunately, the Jedi tend to be a little bit of a pacifist organization. They will fight if they have to, but a lot of times they prefer to talk before fight. Where the Sith are the other direction. The Sith would much prefer to try and bash your brains in and fight and dominate you. So, again, two extremes. Yeah, and there are people who have done there are multiple YouTubers far more prominent than me who have done review of Grey Jedi, who they are, or people who fall more into a Grey Jedi category. So I mean, if you're curious about that, I would encourage you to check out Urban Acolyte, Dash Star, um, and there's one other, and I can't remember his name at the moment. But Urban Acolyte and Dash are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. And if I can find those videos for you guys. I'll put them in the link, but it might take me some time to find those. But again, if you do a Grey Jedi, if you do a search for urban acolyte and look at his, because he's actually done more than one. From what I remember, he's done more than one Grey Jedi thing. Um, and then I know Dash Star has done one. So, um, anyways, the people that fall into the Grey Jedi category would be Luke Skywalker falls into the Grey Jedi category. I know a lot of people would be like, no, he doesn't. He's a 100% Jedi. No, Luke falls into the Grey Jedi category. Mainly because Luke will draw upon some of the darker sides of the Force. We saw it in Episode 6, where he walks in and he uses Force choke on the guards. Okay, we can also see it in kind of the way that Luke does things in his actions. His actions are not 100% like Jedi-esque. Luke's not against using the abilities that he has at his disposal to benefit the good of people. So same with, and well, I shouldn't say same, but other people who could be considered Grey Jedi would be Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka Tano, in a lot of ways, is kind of the embodiment of what an actual Grey Jedi is. She's a Force user who is dominantly in the good and things like that. She does not call herself a Jedi, and actually, if you watch Star Wars Rebels, somebody calls her one of the other characters calls her a Jedi, and she's like, "I am no Jedi." She's very, very clear on that fact. She is a Force user, and she's very strong in the Force, but she's not a Jedi. She fits in that Grey Jedi category in a lot of ways, mainly because of that. Qui-Gon Jinn is another person who would be considered in the Grey Jedi category. Qui-Gon did not agree with the coddling that the Jedi Order had of the Senate, and in a lot of ways kind of believed in doing what needed to be done opposed to sitting and waiting. So those are kind of some pretty solid examples as far as Grey Jedi. Again, go and check out those other guys that I mentioned. They'll have a lot more comprehensive list than what I can tell you. Mainly because they're Star Wars channel specifically, and they kind of hone in that particular area. I'm a Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, as evidenced by what I'm doing, but I don't read. Due to my reading disability, I don't really read the books that much. I've seen all of the movies, and I avidly talk about Star Wars because I love it. But that being said, I actively love Star Trek, and I also do that. So, anyways, I've diverged enough. So let's get into the Grey Jedi Code. Let's see here. So there is no dark side. There is no light side. There is the Force. I will. Sorry, this is tiny print, and my eyes are not doing so well. So, um, I will do what I must to keep the balance. There is no good without evil, but evil must not be allowed to flourish. There is passion, yet peace. There is serenity, yet emotion. Chaos, yet order. Okay. And the bottom half of that, I'm not really going to read. Mainly, I mean, I love the last half of it, mainly, especially because I am a Grey Jedi. But what I really wanted to focus on is kind of the stark contrast that the Grey Jedi Code has in comparison to the other two codes. So, the main thing with the Grey Jedi Code is that it recognizes that there is both sides of the equation. It's not just 100% there is one or the other. I'm sorry, my camera's there's not one or the other. There's both, and you have to have both in order to complete the thing. You can think of a yin and yang. You have a dark side of the yang. You have dark side and light side as far as the yin and yang, and yet they are together. They are not separate. You have you have two different sides of the equation, and yet separately they're not really anything, but together you have balance. And so that's what I love about the Grey Jedi Code, is that the Grey Jedi Code is more of a balance code. There is no dark side, there is no light side, there is the Force, which is actually something that Qui-Gon basically stated in the first movie, The Phantom Menace. I know a lot of people hated The Phantom Menace, and honestly, over the years, as I've had time to actually think about the movies, The Phantom Menace in and of itself was actually a pretty decent movie. There's a particular character that honestly I think, yeah, it drove me nuts. But that being said, The Phantom Menace was actually a very good movie. Um, the second movie was not so much of a good movie, and the third movie was fantastic. Um, but anyways, Qui-Gon in the Phantom Menace says, "Beware of the living Force," and that is very much what kind of what the Grey Jedi Code is about. The Grey Jedi Code is there is no light side, there is no dark side, there is only the Force. Beware of the living Force. Focus on that. Don't focus on the light side. Don't focus on the dark side. Don't focus on the Force itself and navigating that. That's that's in a lot of ways. That's too much of an angle. Um, that is very much kind of what embodies what the Grey Jedi are. The Grey Jedi, like I said, they're not darksiders, because there is a difference in between basically a light sider and a dark sider. Um, and those, again, those are not canon terms, just to be very, very clear. Um, well, dark sider might actually be canon term. I don't remember, but anyways, um, again, that's where the focus is. The focus is on the Force. So let's see here. I will do what I have to do to keep the balance. Okay. Now the second part of this, the small text, is actually very important to this particular point, which is there is no good without evil, but evil cannot be allowed to flourish. So you have your people that are good. You have your people that are evil. If you are the good person, you cannot allow that evil to persist. Again, that is why a Grey Jedi, like I've said before, and again, this is kind of where a lot of people have a hard time with this particular one, because they typically tend to think of Grey Jedi as somebody who's on the line. They're not on the line. What they are is they're a person who subscribes dominantly to the light side of the Force, but they don't really believe in a pacifist way of life. What they believe in is, if they see an injustice, if they see somebody being murdered, they believe in stopping the murder. If they see somebody stealing, they believe in stopping the thief. Okay? You have good, you have evil, you have both of them, but if you are you cannot allow the evil to persist. You have to actively seek it out. So, uh the next couple of ones are just they're really, really short. And again, this is where these next couple of ones basically kind of take the Jedi Code and the Jedi Code and the Sith Code, and put them together. So there's there is passion, yet peace, and this is again what I was talking about, where you have passion, you have emotions, you have these things that are a part of you, and opposed to denying that particular part or suppressing that particular part of you, you recognize it and you find a balance with it so that you are able to flourish. So chaos but order, again, like the example of the firefighter in the middle of a fire. He is that peace within the storm. He is the person who is distributing out water to the areas that need to be. If he, and again, firefighters are part of the team, so if he's the chief, he's distributing out orders to all of the people that are underneath him so that they can bring the chaos around them under control. So so that's pretty much kind of that. All right, so let's actually go over this last half. So I am the wielder of the flame. And again, this is tiny print, so I'm having a hard time reading it. So I am the wielder of the flame, the protector of balance. I am the holder of the torch, lighting the way. I am the keeper of the flame, soldier of balance. I am a my eyes do not want to focus. Guardian of balance. I am a Grey Jedi. So this last part just basically kind of goes over the code in kind of a nice little soliloquy, as it were. Um, and basically, and again, it basically goes over and it states what it is basically it's basically well, not basically, it is an I am statement is what it is. It's several I am statements that basically state exactly what a Grey Jedi is, what a Grey Jedi does. So they're the wielder of the flame. So in the cavern where there's no light, they're the person who holds out and lights up their lightsaber so that there is light, so that you can see, so that you guys can navigate your passageways. They make sure that everybody gets to safety. So again, I am the keeper of the flame of balance. So again, they work to find a balance within a situation, which means they are willing to compromise, but that compromise really does need to be beneficial to all, at least as much as possible. And again, that's where balance is. They work to find a balance within a situation, and unfortunately, sometimes that balance is not what either side really wants, but it is a balance that both sides can agree with. And that's the important thing, is to at least get people on the same page. They don't have to be in the same paragraph with each other, but they at least need to be on the same page with an abridge in there that makes it so that they can both work together. So that's kind of my final, that's, well, not my final thoughts, but that is my thoughts as far as that goes. So anyways, I want to thank you guys so much. Sorry. Mm. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I know that this was a bit of a long one. I could have done an individual video on each of the codes, and I still might. We'll see. We'll kind of see how I'm feeling, how the day goes. I've got stuff I got to do today, though. I've got a house that I've got to pack and clean and take care of, and then I've got another issue that I've got to deal with. And so on. So, anyways, I know this was a long one. I know it kind of rambled and diverged a little bit and whatnot. So thank you so much for putting up with that. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. It is always appreciated. If you're not already subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button so I know that you liked it. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down so that I know that you didn't like it. But I mean, either way, just let me know whether what your thoughts are as far as it goes. Like I said, this is my thoughts. This is by no means anything conclusive. This is not, I got together with a whole bunch of other Star Wars fans and I'm voicing a joint opinion. It is not that by any means. It is my opinion and my opinion only. If it's something you agree with, great. If it's not something, great. But the important part is this gives a place to start a conversation with. So, I get, if I remember right, it's Dash Star's tag out. This is just the start of the conversation. So, anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's always appreciated. And until the next time, this is Panther 08222. Peace out, guys. Have a great day.